Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Crow. This is March 17th, FTH 202. This is the final assignment. This is the Taurus 38 Special Revolver course. First things first, just show that this is open. All of the cylinders in the chamber or all the chambers in the cylinder are open. So just to start showing the important parts of the revolver, let me go ahead and move this down. You can see what I'm doing. That looks a little bit better. So already took it off. Side plate here, all of the side plate screws, and then the detent screw, the cylinder itself with the ejector rod, and then the frame and the rest of the assembly, and I'll leave it together, but barrel frame, front sight, the cylinder release, hammer, trigger, cylinder stop, trigger spring, hammer spring, hammer, firing pin, transfer bar, hand, the bolts underneath the hammer there, and the sear is right in there. So those are all the important parts of the firearm that we will be working with. I'll go ahead and throw this back together so I don't lose anything real quick. This side plate's pretty stiff still. I think it definitely could use some deburring just to get it to snap in a little bit easier, but it's not too bad if you mess with it. My Smith & Wesson 586, on the other hand, it is extremely difficult to get apart and back together. I mean, you can't even tell that there is a line in the bluing. It's that tight. So while I'm putting this together, the 10 items that I wanted to talk about that I found most useful and revealing during the course, really just starting at the beginning, the history of the revolver platform. And like I said, I think in a previous post, I think one of my what I thought was really comical was that the first day I started this course, the day I received the weapon from my FFL, I had watched an episode of Pawn Stars earlier in the morning, and they had gone over two wheel guns, wheel lock revolvers from the 1500s, and I thought that was kind of cool that on that same day I started, reading about the history of the weapon system, because those were like one of the first ones on there. But the history, number one, and then the transformations of the technology throughout the years, I think is super critical to understanding the history and understanding the development and kind of understanding the why. And, why we change to different types of ammunition to protect it from the weather, why we change the way that we reload revolvers so that you're not having to take the barrel off of the very first, some of the first designs that Colt had. Those things all led to the current iteration of the revolver platform, and it's good to know that history. I think the second takeaway I have that's not necessarily from the course, but kind of stuff I worked through while I was going through the course. I've got another Taurus that's similar to this, a Smith & Wesson 586, an RG 22 long rifle, and a Smith & Wesson Smith & Wesson Governor. And, taking them all apart and just looking at them and seeing all the slight differences between the layout of the inside of the firearm, the different types of hammer springs, main springs, the different types of, there's just so many differences on the internals between every one of these platforms. So I think it would be super unwise to actually take them apart all at once. I think it'd be really smart to only work on one of them at a time, or at least until I'm much more established. But The cycle of operations, I've known the cycle of operations for years being a Marine, but applying it to the revolver is different, and you can actually take that side plate off and watch some of these internal mechanisms at work and have a deeper understanding of not only the cycle of operations, it just makes things click better, but also the way that these parts interact with each other. And you can foresee the way the parts interact where a malfunction may occur. I think I skipped over one. Proper assembly, disassembly is a big one. I mean, I kind of touched on it a little bit, but I think that's super critical to the course, to understanding, you can't just take everything that has a screw head off right when you see it, or things are going to fall apart the wrong way on the inside of this. You can't just take that screw off that cylinder release and then, get to taking the rest of the internals and the side plate off and all that stuff. You need to do the things in order, or you could have an issue. Measuring the barrel was really great, and I think really practical, especially with it being a 2-inch. I thought that was, a lot different than the AR course, where you're measuring a much longer rifle. This was pretty cool, measuring this short one, and I think that'll be practical to do on weapons of an unknown barrel length. Trigger pull, it was great to get to do that in this course, and I think that measuring trigger pull on this is, that's something that's applicable to all firearm types. So I'll definitely be using that in the future. Stone polishing, taking the internals out, finding the high parts, using the layout die, then putting it back together, running it through its paces, taking it back apart and noticing those high spots, and then knocking them down. I really enjoyed using these hand stones, and I just like this whole kit's kind of cool. I'm also a sucker for anything that's got a leather pouch on it, so I just thought that was kind of cool. But putting it back together and seeing it operate so much more smoothly, even if it didn't reduce the trigger pull immediately, the weapon was smoother. And I really enjoy doing it by hand instead of going straight to a Dremel. I just feel like that was a important step to do, and to learn to do it by hand first. The spring replacements were also really a good learning point, and that actually did drop the trigger pull a lot, so that'll be something that I'll be doing on some other revolvers I have in the future for sure, just to gauge the effectiveness. And another one that I always thought was funny was the ejector rod runout. It's something that I've seen before on damaged revolvers that family members have had, and then they're trying to use the cylinder to eject the rods, and it's bent, and it's like, oh, you got to wiggle it up this way, and it's like, no, your ejector rod's bent, dude. Like, we need to replace that. And now I know the terminology, and I know better. I just kind of always thought that was funny, just well, we do this and it'll still work. Oh, not really. Another cool thing, and this isn't one of my 10 items, but that coupon that came with the weapon was for a Crimson Trace. Oh, is this Crimson Trace? I think it's Crimson Trace. No, it's Viridian. It's a Viridian laser grip that's Taurus branded, and I'll throw that on. I just kind of thought that was cool. It was like $30 off a $140 grip, so almost a third off. And it doesn't fit quite as well as the other one. I mean, it fits well, but the other one that this comes with, that Hogue style, the Taurus branded one, man, you can hide that revolver really anywhere, smaller back, ankle. I don't think it would have mattered, but again, there's safe. Hang it out of the way. Safe. There's nothing loaded, and now it's all back together. Laser grip on, and that is the end of this assignment. So thank you.